gosh.
It's been 8 months since I last traveled. The thing that I loved so much, the thing that excited me, became dangerous. We are in a global pandemic, but the lack of natural light, being stuck in a condo in Toronto, is getting to us.
We needed to travel. With much of the world closed to us, we only really had one option: travel within Canada, embracing the beauty Canada had to offer. The best part? We could travel there and do almost 100% of our activities outdoors. We got some N95 masks and planned for a 21-day out west road trip through the Canadian Rockies, capturing wildlife and time lapses while hiking along the way.
If we were going out west, I knew I needed to live out my dreams of seeing orcas in the wild, so we headed to Vancouver Island. Victoria is one of the best places in the world to see orcas, so we headed out for a sea safari.
It was also my first trip since returning home from Africa. Africa changed the way I looked at the world, appreciating the wild more than ever. This trip was also my first time using my new camera, the Sony a7 III, a full-frame camera that I was eager to test out. Almost as soon as we arrived, my camera was put to the test. As the boat moved out to sea, we got our first glimpse of wildlife: sea lions. They were surprisingly active, fighting with one another as they played King of the Hill. Or at least, some of them were. Lots of them were just lying there, soaking up the sun. Already, I was pumped to see wildlife through my telephoto lens on my new camera, giving me a different perspective than I had experienced before.
There are 1,500 nerve endings in one harbor seal whisker.
When we finally came across the orcas, I couldn't believe it. Ever since I saw the movie Blackfish Effect and learned how bad captivity was for orcas and marine mammals generally, I knew I wanted to see them in their natural habitat. It's very important to make sure you go with a reputable company that doesn't put the animals at risk, so we went with Eagle Wing Tours. One of the things that struck me was how large the dorsal fins of wild orcas are, and how heartbreaking it is that they collapse in captivity. In the wild, orcas live up to 3 times longer, on average, than they do in captivity. In captivity, orcas face many issues due to stress caused by the size of the tanks, resulting in them spending more time on the surface and lack of socialization with other orcas. One whale named Kiska at Marineland lived alone for more than a decade before she died in 2023. She would complete 879 laps in her tank, which was less than 2 of her body lengths wide at any given point. She would also thrash her body against her tank and sit in one corner, motionless. These are abnormal behaviors and indicators of stress. This is why it's important to visit animals in the wild and not in captivity.
A quick summary and a recap. In the Sailor Sea, we have 5 types of whales. We have minke whales, gray whales, humpback whales, and 2 types of orca. We have fish eaters called residents and mammal munchers called transients, or bigs whales. That's what we have here. These are the bigs orca.
The orcas were absolutely incredible to witness. With such majestic beauty and strength, I can see why they are nicknamed killer whales. They move smoothly through the water, occasionally popping up for air and a blast from their blowholes. It was incredibly exciting being on the lookout for them. When they dipped below the surface, I never knew where they were going to appear next. Each time they did, I felt the excitement and awe all over again. I also loved seeing the families move together, with the mom and teenager orcas sticking together for safety, moving through the sea. I couldn't have asked for better scenery. The morning mist had cleared and the mountains revealed themselves above the blue sea the orcas were playing in. Mountains are some of my favorite landscapes, so it was cool to see these beautiful creatures against the mountainous backdrop. I also really appreciated that the boat was less crowded due to COVID regulations. It gave me a good chance to get the shots I was hoping for, while being able to listen to the guide giving context to the orcas along the way.
So many migratory species of whales, like gray whales, humpback whales, who have a very defined breeding season and a feeding season. These whales eat all the time, or on an as-needed basis, every 24 hours or more frequently. And breeding season, well, but that doesn't stop them from breeding. As a result, some of the lucky ladies can go, woohoo, I'm pregnant, yay, for 18 months.
We arrived back at Fisherman's Wharf just as the sun was beginning to set. We had decided not to stay in Victoria because we wanted to avoid the crowds and COVID the city had to offer. We took a brief stop outside of Parliament and then headed for dinner at a place called Nourish. It was really good, just what I needed after our sea safari adventure.
After dinner, we headed towards Tofino. The sun was setting and we hadn't booked anywhere to stay. We just didn't know where we were going to end up, and I thought I would try being spontaneous. Turns out this kind of stressed me out, but we found a place in Cowichan Valley and stopped there before heading to Tofino.
After a good night's sleep at the Best Western, Cowichan Valley, we woke up early so we could make the nearly 3.5-hour drive to Tofino. We had a rough plan on where we wanted to stop along the way, so we wanted to give ourselves enough time to explore.
I really wanted to check out Cathedral Grove. They filmed some of Star Wars here, but unfortunately it was closed due to COVID. But we still stopped at some cool places along the way. We are currently on our way to Hole in the Wall Waterfall. I keep calling it Man and Hole, so I paused there because I keep thinking it's called Man and Hole, which sounds not great. But the waterfall, basically there's a hole in the rock, and apparently it was man-made. So not necessarily a natural phenomenon, but really cool. Okay, bye! Is that the slug? Hi, little buddy. I say buddy, but if it touched me, I'd be like, oh.
We took a bit of a detour and stopped in Ucluelet to do the Ancient Cedars Trail Walk before continuing on our journey to Tofino. It was beautiful, walking amongst the trees and experiencing the serenity of nature after so many months locked down at home in Toronto. We spent a few days in Tofino. It was the Perseids meteor shower, so I was excited to test out my full-frame camera for astrophotography, something I had fallen back in love with in Africa. I also had a great time setting up some time lapses of the sunset and just wandering around town, exploring the relaxed culture of Tofino. Tofino is known as a surf town, so we decided to give surfing a try. It was a lot of fun. I even managed to get up on the board on my first go. The food was also incredible. We went to a place called Tofino, where
I ate the best burrito of my life. We also visited Tofino Brewing Company and watched the sunset again before driving 3 hours to the Nanaimo ferry terminal.
where we took the ferry from Vancouver Island to Vancouver, British Columbia to meet up with some of my friends.
We only stayed one night in Vancouver because we were meeting up with Callum's brother and his girlfriend to go on one of the most challenging hikes of my life.
But more on that in the next video. If you'd like to follow along with our journey, please consider subscribing as we will post the next video soon. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Those are shadows. Hello, shadows.